revelation. The revelation of the one true God, which was given to shew unto his servants those things which must shortly come to pass. And he sent and signified it by his angel unto his servants, whom may no longer evade your faith, whom thou, who so loves to hate. I stood upon the sand of the sea, and I beheld a beast rise up out of the sea, having 7 heads and 10 horns, and his horns 10 crowns, and upon his head the name of pride. It was a gay beast. And there appeared a great wonder in heaven, a woman clothed with the sun, and the moon under her feet, and upon her head a crown of 12 stars. It was a drag queen. And the queen spake, Behold now and hear that the end is near, because of ye who still fear us women and queers. And she, I'm gay. And she, being with child, cried, travailing in birth, and pain to be delivered, gave forth to a third wonder in heaven. And behold, a great red dragon, a communist dragon, having 7 heads and 10 horns, and 7 hammers and sickles upon his heads. Each had the word expropriation. And his tail drew the 3rd part of the stars of heaven, and did cast them to the earth. And the dragon stood before the woman which was ready to be delivered, and the dragon spake.
Dude, can you play a song with a fucking beat?
The feminine phenomenon is upon us. He beheld the woman to devour her child as soon as it was born, because he was a pro-choice, communist, great red dragon. And when this yacht, New Trinity, has come to devour the earth, and the new world will be populated by the sinners, fueled by their lustful nature, they will fuck, suck, and swallow, till their orifice are singing, Oh, come all ye faithful, and they have found their salvation. And from then on, my doctor will be home earth. You can come.
TCD signed as a true and accurate record of Hamas private business meeting. There being none, I shall duly sign. Madam Treasurer, are there any fines?
There are no fines.
Madam Secretary, are there any reports to be read?
There are no reports to be read. Time for questions is now open.
Madam Secretary, are there any motions on notice?
There are 3 motions on notice.
Okay, so yeah, one of them. Subcommittee is going tomorrow at 8 p.m. Get your links out in the Instagram. But now, file down the tickets. Get them on this very important. Hopefully, we're going to do that tomorrow. Yeah.
Second motion, Becky's started last week. If you don't know what Becky's is, it's basically a very similar competition to Maidens. It's basically for those who haven't yet sort of spoken in chamber and want to sort of get to know that sort of chamber speaking competition. There's a €200 prize, so I highly recommend you go. And you only need to attend 2 rounds to qualify for the finals. So it'll be going on for the next 5 weeks, I think, or so. So 1 week has passed, you still have plenty of opportunities to show up. It's a good time.
And the very motion got lost in the post, so we'll keep going. Madam Secretary, are there any motions not?
There are no motions on notice. Time for questions is now closed.
This brings us on to the general business of the society. Are there any motions to raise from general business? There being no further business, the private business meeting is adjourned. Our secretary shall retire and return with the speakers for tonight's debate. All rise for the speakers.
Good to be back. I was babysitting for my sister the other day. Looking after my niece. Love my niece. She's 4. I believe it's Flossie and 4-year-old. Why? You know, so curious. She said to me, Uncle Gillian, if flowers need food to survive, why don't they have nests? And I said to her, well, it's roots. Roots. And she wants to have bees. And she was so clean. The bees get some money for the work they do in the hive. I said, no. Because the work they do in the hive, they're safe. And she said, no, I need what I mean. She said, Uncle Gillian, do not so nice job as people are working. They get paid more money because they're not so nice. Which I was fucking. I did not say I was stumped. Because you see, I didn't go through that world. They don't know the parallel to you. Because actually, one of them is like back in the 3 and then they're like the 60s century. They don't carry their all the needs records. As those records is going to take more loud. Or perhaps, you can commit your education. Maybe not what happens now, but maybe you're a vocation. Or perhaps, you're very loud. But maybe, when they were rebelled, they like this. They just stop inspiring. Anyway, enough about that. I want to talk about state of our country. Not getting out of brain what awful happening. But 8-year-old daughter. She's only Irish in her class. The rest is they don't know the troubles. But these ethno-nationalist sectarian conflicts about the authority towards Ireland. During this time, the word Catholic caused became qualified terms, where the former was not so Irish and the latter British. This oversimplification led to segregation of our people and the prolonging of hostility concerning ethnic prejudice on the side. During the Troubles, 3,720 men, women, and children were killed. 47,540 women were shootings, bombings, and massacres. And apparently here in Trinity, that's not something to joke about. Anyway, I hope you people really appreciate practicing we stand up. As a comedian, I'm here to challenge the status quo. If you're offended, you're wrong. I'm a craftsman. My tool is defense. I open myself to the eye of public scrutiny and the mob of I'm free thinker. I believe what George Carlin said, never underestimate the power of stupid people in large groups. He got it. George Carlin got it. Well, you can imagine when you're I don't want to go to heaven. None of my friends are there. And I thought, yeah, there's no going to heaven. They don't know. They're here. Anyway, want to talk about Israel for a second? There you go. You shit yourself down. Israel is a surveillance state that will continue to commit acts of terrorism and genocide with merciless intent, so as to maintain power indefinitely and to strengthen the West's vested interests and presence in the Middle East. And argue with that. Anyway, ceasefire, I said. Ceasefire? Ceasefire, I hardly know her. Thanks. They don't know. But that they hold over.
objections to me signing these minutes as a true and accurate record of the last public business meeting? There being none, I shall duly sign. Everyone, welcome to the University Philosophical Society. The motion that stands before the House is this House believes that people are the greatest threat to humanity. Standing orders are as follows. Speeches are a maximum of 7 minutes for student speakers and 10 minutes for guests. After the first minute, and before the last minute of each speech, which will be signified by a bell, speakers from opposing sides and audience members are free to offer points of information. We encourage general audience participation in our case. If you hear something that you like, shout here, and if you hear something that you don't like, shout shame. We prioritize respect during our debates, and as a result, if anyone has any concerns about what is said tonight, our senior member of council, David Kelly, will be around reception all evening and is contactable via snc@tcdphil.com. Alternatively, our president, Annika, is contactable via president@tcdphil.com. Without further ado, I will introduce the speakers for tonight's debate. Speaking of proposition, we have Dr. Rebecca Usherwood, Assistant Professor in Late Antique Studies in the Department of Classics. Adriana Mazur, first year economics and social sciences student. Amy Jennifer Kennedy, second year English and sociology student. Nikolai Mulua, human health and first year human health and diseases student. Sophia Hall, a second year politics, philosophy, economics and social studies student. Also the hero of POSOC, who is in collaboration with. Dr. Frederick Shee, Assistant Professor in the Department of Biochemistry and Immunology. And now I would like Dr. Usherwood to open the slide proposition and debate as a whole. Here.
Good evening. I've never even been to a debate before, and this is real now. And I'm opening, so I have no model to follow. So apologies in advance. I'm used to public speaking, but not like this. So I'm a historian, I'm a Roman historian, and I'm based in the classics department. And my area of specialism is the later Roman history. So basically, this is the bit where everything starts to go pear-shaped and crumble and collapse. And this is obviously the reason why I was asked to talk about this. And I want to give some sort of long-term perspective on human behavior and human systems, and how the balance between factors that are within human control and outside human control in making sense of when things fall apart, in this case, namely, what can we learn from the decline and fall of the Roman Empire? And from this perspective, from this perspective, 2 points. First is the fact that these kind of collapses levels, things falling apart, it's never a single moment that can be identified. It's generally a sort of series of turning points. And this brings me to the second point, which is why things fall apart. And there's never really can ever be for that single distinct reason. And we should be really wary of anyone who claims that there is a single reason, especially if they also supply, either explicitly or implicitly, a solution for how we now can prevent these mistakes or sort of reverse our journey down the path which is leading to this sort of direction of collapse. And the idea of the War of Rome is so interesting to us because it consistently has been held up as a sort of mirror to our anxieties and our values and our priorities in contemporary times. And we can learn a lot about the shifting in human priorities because of that. So Epictetus in the 18th century, he explicitly said, this is the story I'm telling, and my story is going to tell us how we can avoid a repetition of the kind of calamities that impacted the Roman Empire. and what he termed protecting what he called civilized society of contemporary Europe and its colonies against what he called, I quote, the savage nations of the globe. And over the next sort of 2.5 centuries, the fall of Rome similarly sat through the lens of contemporary concerns and prejudices, and often imbued with sense of morality. So, for example, capitalism has been blamed for the fall of Rome, which is quite interesting considering the Romans had no concept of capitalism. Also, communism has been blamed for the fall of Rome. Celibacy has been blamed for the fall of Rome. Childhood is somewhat connected to celibacy. Female emancipation has been blamed for the fall of Rome. Racial degradation has been blamed. Apathy, decadence, complacency, gluttony, gout, and lead-type poisoning. And a really popular explanation is the invasion of barbarians. And even in antiquity, this term barbarian is a loaded phrase. It doesn't mean, what it indicates is non-Roman and other, but also is implicit there at uncivilized behavior. And in 1995, Len Bowersock was reflecting on the collapse of the Soviet Union, and he questioned why actually the dissolution and fragmentation of big things, an empire based on human oppression and exploitation was ever a bad thing. And he says there's optimism in the future, there's optimism in the multiculturalism of the late Roman Empire, and he said, quote, the fall of Rome no longer needed, and like writing on a faded papyrus will no longer speak to us. But there's this thing on the text, which is this trope of finding this explanation continues. So 20 years later, in 2015, just two days after a series of coordinated terrorist attacks in Paris, historian Neil Ferguson published an article in several different Murdoch-owned publications, which directly connected the events in Paris to the sack of Rome in 410, and both claimed the result of lax internal security, embracing multiculturalism, and he claimed allowing unfettered movement of people into Europe. And he had this warning, he said, quote, I am going to tell you this is exactly how civilizations fall. And since the 1980s, and I think this is where I anticipate we will be going, environmental explanations the reflection of the current concerns of the world. So some of these are connected to human agency. So for example, lack of resource management has been blamed. Climatic deterioration, deforestation, soil erosion, and exhaustion. And some environmental factors not connected to human agency have been proposed, particularly a volcanic eruption, which then led to several years of no sunlight at all and a volcanic winter. And most recently, for very obvious reasons, attention has been paid to the impact of large-scale disease events. So these were the first pandemics rather than epidemics, and this is a consequence of the unprecedented size and interconnectivity of the Roman Empire. And from the 2nd to the 6th century, there were 3 separate pandemics, and they tore across the region. And modern science has provided some explanation for these, but the source material is still quite scanty. And this leaves many of the details sort of unknown, such as the identity of individual pathogens that caused this, but also the extent of the demographic impact. This is all being disputed. So the Antonine Plague. This hit at a time of prosperity and stability in the mid to late 2nd century. It is thought to have been smallpox. And estimates of the proportion of the Roman Empire, which was about 70 million at the time it killed, is anywhere from 2 to 4% to possibly a quarter, so we're talking 80 million people. And then we have the plague of Scipion. This was perhaps measles, though more recently it's been argued that it was perhaps Ebola, and this struck in the mid-3rd century. Again, really poorly understood due to a lack of documentation. But it coincided with the time of political fragmentation and chaos, and it is blamed for exacerbating the situation. And then we have the plague of Justinian, which was first reported in 541 CE, and in 2013 it was finally confirmed that this was caused by Yersinia pestis, so the bubonic plague. This is the same as the Black Death, The Black Death killed between 30 to 50% of Europe's population in the mid-14th century, so this is 25 to 30 million people. And it's also revealed that this was a strain that can be traced to Central Asia. So it's drawing our attention to the fact that BPD spread a lot beyond our sort of disciplinary divide when you think about what the Roman Empire is, etc. And the death toll is anywhere, it's been estimated to 25 to 60% of Europe. Since it's returned in waves over the next 200 years. And beyond the demographic impact, there are also cultural, socio-cultural impacts of this. So, in the mid-3rd century, the plague of Cyprian, it's credited with causing the spread of Christianity, or motivating the spread of Christianity, because in this time period, in the 50 years afterwards, proportion of Christians in the Roman Empire went from about 2 to about 3%. And this is displayed not only by the fact that this movement offered salvation, personal salvation, which was not a common thing offered at the time there, but in the way that individual Christians behaved. So they would nurse all members of the community, not just Christians, and whilst others fled and sort of left their fellow citizens dying and unburied. And then the plague of Justinian, like other diseases, it impacted urban communities, where lots of people lived in often through poor positions on top of each other. And this indirectly favoured those who had different social systems and moved nomadically, such as the Arab tribes. So this, in argued, set the stage for the rise of the Muslim caliphates that conquered Persian and Eastern Roman empires. And at this point, you're probably confused what type of argument I'm arguing, because I'm kind of showing to make a sort of case that actually further-reaching threats to humanity have always been coming from the microscopic viruses, rather than people themselves. However, what I think we should argue, how we think we should see this, is that the channels that they travel, and in the past, and will travel, are human. So the spread is dictated by the ways in which humans organise themselves and interact with one another, and their impact and their consequences will always be managed through human systems. And sadly, I feel that the current world is being a bit pessimistic, because we know so much more than the ancient Romans about causes of these kind of human, non-human disasters and the possible strategies for how we might manage them. But I really feel there is a sort of shortage of empathy when it comes to putting these strategies into place, both on an individual level and on the level of larger entities. And this kind of brings me to the question of definition here, which is what humanity is. Because humanity is not just a kind of collective term that is humankind, but it's a quality. And it's a quality of compassion for other people. So I think the kind of dehumanization that we've been seeing recently in the media, in politics, doesn't speak well for the way that these disasters might happen.
I'd like to thank that speaker for their very fine speech, and I'd like to invite Makai to dedicate the slide off.
Hi everyone, my name is Kai. I'm a first year Trinity College student. You can probably tell I have a little mirror on this area, and a little picture on my laptop, lots of propaganda. So yeah, before the art students put me on trial for witchcraft, I'm going to start. Actually, on the topic of being put on trial, I'm going to drop some dad lore. I don't normally delve into this early, but I have had like 2 sips of alcohol, and I'm a lightweight. So my dad used to be a journalist for Daily News, which was at one point Zimbabwe's only privately owned newspaper, and this was during the 37-year-long reign of Robert Mugabe, tyrant who ruled Zimbabwe as Prime Minister and then President. And my dad and countless other journalists were imprisoned multiple times. The editor was arrested several times, and the paper's printing press and main office were both bombed. My dad was charged with violating Zimbabwe's new media laws by reporting false information. These laws were adopted after Mugabe's controversial re-election, and the laws kind of sought to limit any foreign correspondence being accredited to enter the country as well. And I think that most people would agree that a tyrant who ruled Zimbabwe for 37 years, creating a government rife with corruption that lasted for years afterwards, does not represent my dad as a Zimbabwean and as a journalist fighting to unveil the truth. The persecution of the media is a surefire way to mark the descent from the functioning of a civilization, misusing the very institutions set up to protect us from others and ourselves to divert the pursuit of free information and limit freedom. Thus, we and our fellow citizens of the earth should not be defined by the dictators, CEOs, out-of-touch billionaires that climb a pile of helpless and trusting people to get to the top, then throw down just enough money to keep us alive. The top 1% in terms of wealth and power have arguably lost the meaning of humanity. Because humanity, as I'm here defining it, is about the collective, an understanding and the solidarity of what it means to be human. I have my friend who's an art student, but she still made a good point, pointed out to me the outliers shouldn't influence the data set as a whole. It's an injustice that the actions of those furthest removed from the bottom, literally up in 10,000 and jets and trying to colonize Mars, can be such a danger to humanity, while the 99% just trying to survive and get through the day are being used as pawns for economic or political gain. This isn't to argue that CEOs and billionaires don't deserve the label of being people, though in some cases I will happily argue that. But to argue that humanity means more than a state of being, it is the diaspora of all the Earth's people, our civilizations, our structures and institutions, our languages, our cultures. Humanity means a concerted effort for the things that we want, as social beings who inhabit our precious earth together. So it is that is being threatened, and it is dictators, corrupt governments, and exploitative corporations that are the greatest threat to it, not people as a collective. 19th century German philosopher, which Georg Wilhelm Friedrich Hegel, made the distinction between a subject and an object, where the subject is a consciousness and the object is an inanimate, unconscious object. When a subject comes into contact with another subject, there's a fundamental feeling of oppression and your inherent freedom is threatened. For example, when I have to sit and listen to a man explaining Tarantino movie to me for 20 minutes, which I wouldn't have to do if I existed alone in the universe. And this way of thinking creates an other that threatens your personal freedoms and your will to do what you please. I can't run onto the road, another conscious being will run me over, and then they will probably sue me and make me pay for my own hospital. Anyway, my point is that we do not exist in a vacuum, and humanity only works when all of us agree to our shared language of values. Respect, love, kindness. Though we may not show or interpret these in the same way all over the world, we all understand them. We might discount another country's morality because of their problems and say, well, they do that over there, they can't be moral. But think about how those countries would see us if our problems walked in the door first. You think they would go, oh, €1 million, 2 bedrooms, €6 coffees, homeless problem, yes please. We can't see multiculturalism as a threat. Great movements of people, as the competition points out, are not a threat. It's fear-mongering of difference and of our opportunities being harmed when it can really just expand the opportunities for everyone in our civilizations. Once we look past these differences to our shared language values, we can work together to achieve great things, like the Human Genome Project, involving tens of collaborators, which, for the art students here, a genome, it's like a book with a list of all your Instagram posts that you're going to post in the future. So humanity wouldn't exist as we know it if we weren't here. We have dominated the earth because of our thirst for innovation, to understand and then to alter the world around us. Without the best and brightest among us, we wouldn't live as long or have any of our modern comforts. Many diseases wouldn't be cured yet, many people with disabilities would be abandoned by society. We are constantly improving and updating our cities, our technology, our knowledge banks, and plus who else would tax water if we weren't here? Okay, so my last point is a bit more obvious, but we cannot be the greatest threat to humanity because there are threats out there that we don't even understand yet. And this might be microbial diseases, it could just be a big rock. Maybe the dinosaurs were like, oh, big pharma, rising sea level, inflation. And then it was just a big rock. So we are helpless to any cosmic forces out there, whether extraterrestrial or here at home. the Black Death, for example, how we seem to be not quite well armed yet to deal with pandemics of this scale, and we seem to just keep beating them by luck, to be honest. So we need to remember kind of the history of the universe was a year. Homo sapiens would only have emerged in the last 7 minutes of the last day of the year. We depend on the earth, and we adapt to it to survive, not vice versa. And we could be wiped out at any moment following a drastic change in our environment. Even climate change, which is proven to be caused by our actions, and is probably the most daunting threat to us right now, will ultimately result in us either having to fix the problem that we've created or to succumb to nature. So we don't really have any agency when it comes to the real threats. And so, in conclusion, I don't understand people who say that we're the greatest threat to humanity because we are the only ones who can say we cannot be. Thank you.
Speaker for a fine speech, and I'd like to invite Adriana to continue the case for us.
Proposition are going to tell you that people are bad. Opposition are going to tell you that people are good and people are going to do good things and you're great and so on. I'm going to ask you who. First of all, who asks, because I feel like this is not the real comparative to this motion. But secondly, the more important, who are the people? Like, this is a debate about me, about you, about art students, about best students, about Donald Trump, Elon Musk, or your mom. I don't really get that. And I feel like this is the central problem in this debate. I was thinking about the comparative in this motion for quite a long time, maybe like half an hour. And I don't really know what is going to be the alternative biggest threat, but I believe how this motion works is that opposition is telling you that there are a lot of great things that people are doing, and humanity exists because of people, but also people are the only capable of destroying humanity as a concept because they created it. So that means that I'm going to make this debate as debate about words, about their vibes, and about their explanation, and why, the moment we created the plural version of the word person and the name of people, we've created a notion that is contradictory to the notion of humanity we've also created. As you may see from my accent, I'm not the best person to talk about English language, but in Polish it works in the same way. We are having the word człowiek for person, and we are having ludzie, which sounds very, very different, and we are having the exact same thing. What is the problem then? I agree with both of the past speakers that humanity is not only the existence of the human beings on the earth, and not only that we are living here, but this somehow of a broader concept we are bringing with the word humanity. All of our philosophies throughout the centuries are, like, to some extent anthropocentric, which often facts, but like in this particular moment, it's giving a lot of moral values that are attached to the word humanity. Values such as like human rights, such as equality, which was already mentioned. Values that are putting person in the center of what is morally significant and what is something that we care about. And the thing that this survival actually needs focus on a person as an individual and on each single particular person that we're talking about. The problem is that when we're creating the notion of people, we're detaching ourselves from a person and we're putting people as like very big group that is not really defined, that is very diverse, that is having very different needs. That we cannot really talk about whether or not people are a threat to humanity, because which people? When we're starting talking about the groups, we're starting being detached from what we actually think about particular people. When I say that like this is super boring, who am I actually talking about? Like, who are those people? They are not even here because they are boring. Like, the problem is, who am I really talking about? When we're starting talking about people, we are starting attaching a lot of faith that the particular person doesn't really have. Who are we talking about when we are talking about women? Who are we talking about when we are talking about British people? Who are we talking about when we are talking about Jews, about Palestine, Palestinians? Who are we talking about when we are talking about those people? And because we are using these words, and because our brains are really, really, really lately and who are all brainrotted, we're just having very simple notions of what this word means. That means that when we are having a word with attached value, then we're assuming that each single person within that group also subscribe to the definition that we're giving to a particular word. This is the moment when we're starting stigmatizing, but this is not the only problem that we're having when we're putting people as a group, not as a single person. It is also distancing from yourself from a particular person. It is looking at the media and hearing that people are dying, but these are like some random people. Who are these people? What are their names? What are their thoughts? What are their beliefs? What they are actually thinking about? You are starting to discuss with yourself about this because you are seeing numbers. You are seeing that couple thousands of people died in a certain area. You are hearing big numbers, but you are not feeling this as much if it's not about the particular person. But we are also not attaching that much value to this. If we have a group, that means that we're having many, and if we're having many of something, that means that each single one is less important. That means that, I don't know, when you are talking to your best friend and you are being dumped by a boy, you are saying, oh, but there are 8 billion of other people on this planet, and it's not that important. No, it's usually feeling very important at the particular moment. That means that when we are having many, we are just not treating this that seriously. And why is that bad? Because firstly, you cannot really have the humanity if you are not subscribing to the values that you are attaching to the humanity. That means that we created the concept of humanity just to abandon it, just to have this nice thing, nice utopian concept that we can talk about, then we can talk about in very positive speeches, in probably more fancy chambers, even than this one, which is also kind of like comedy more than like real serious debate. But anyways, it is a moment when we can use this word, but not really live like this word is something that is actually meaningful, not really live like this concept actually matters, because it is easier for us for this concept not to matter. It is easier for us to close our eyes for how much this concept is being violated when we're having other concepts that we can just replace it with. And we can just talk about groups of people and then not feel that bad compared to other people who are suffering. When we are voting for the policies that are discriminatory towards someone because we are feeling that the groups are almost afraid of, and we're not thinking about the individuals that are going to suffer, we're not thinking about the families that are going to suffer, we're thinking in our own private ways, and only when we are going to abandon talking about people as groups and talking about people as individuals, we can save humanity. So not people destroy the humanity, but the concept of people destroy humanity. None of the particular, no particular person is fully guilty for that. What we are guilty for is subscribing to the concept that is just easier than acknowledging all the bad things that are happening in the world. Thanks.
Chairpersons, fellow debaters, members of the opposition and opposition, I guess, and you, my wonderful audience members. There seems to be a bit of discussion here about what humanity is, and I think it's typically accepted that there's two versions of humanity. One is collective group of humans, and one is that wishy-washy thing that social scientists love. I know I should, but I'm actually going to be talking about the first one today. And I've done my research, guys, and I did it on Wikipedia, the most reputable of all websites. So I'm pretty confident in saying that I strongly oppose the motion set forward by the proposition today. But there's also something really important I have to do first. You see, there is a travesty that has been going on for far too long, that has been gone unnoticed, and you've all participated in it, maybe unwittingly. Have you ever just think about Instagram? It's like, your month, your cat. your month, your thing. It's like a zodiac sign. It's as real, like way more important to me personally. And time after time after time, December gets absolutely fucked over. There are other things other than Christmas. There's seasonal depression. There's misery. Enough is enough. Today, I am going to be signing everybody in the room as a local catastrophe. Based on what month in the year you were born. It's like a zodiac, but miserable. I love it. And hopefully through this journey of these, 12 different ways that we are all going to die, we're going to come across two main points. Number one, the world the proposition wants you to believe in. The world where we believe that people are the greatest threat to humanity is actually a more dangerous world than the one we currently live in. And the second one we're going to do is that non-human threats can be really bad, low-key. Like, the dinosaurs can say that. People weren't around then. They all died. So, other threats exist. And before I start this, let it be known that 12 is a bigger number than I thought. So, like, maybe some of these are slightly less realistic than others, but I think they all give very good food for thought. And of course, the most golden rule of all of this is you get what you get, and you don't get upset. If I make you annoyed with your catastrophe, good. I've had to deal with this for months. January, you guys are that bonus from The Last of Us. It's gross, it's scary, it's called cordyceps. It's real. Don't look it up. February, you guys are Mercury crashing into the planet. Did you know in 2008 they discovered there's a 1% chance of Mercury going off course? And if that happens, there's a 1 in 4 chance it hits us. Now, you might not be like a genius like me, but off the top of my head, I'm pretty sure that's like 325 times bigger than the asteroid that killed the dinosaurs. And like, I'm pretty sure that's the literal biggest threat. Like, Mercury's a planet. It doesn't get much bigger than that, like the sun, so that's irrelevant. Number 3 is like a famine part 2. And like, I'm picturing like the blight of the new pathogen like kills all the major food stuff. And sure, we're more diversified in our agriculture now, but there's not a lot of humanity in the world where you have to barter a Longchamp bag for half a stale pot noodle. I don't want to imagine a world like that, so that's another one. April, you're gonna get a gamma ray burst. I don't know what that is, but it sounds very scary. May, you guys are a giant volcano going up. It's like a nuclear winter, except instead of evil little missiles, it's evil big mountain. Very scary. June, you guys are the rapture. And and look, I know that it technically isn't very likely, but if anyone on the proposition can stand up and give me a definitive proof against a righteous God, be my guest. Failing that, everyone born in June, you are the rapture. And we're gonna take a little bit of a break here. Because we're 6 months down, and I'm a little bit over halfway through my speech. And I want to talk about a genuine, real threat that I think is going to be close to home for a lot of people, which is a pandemic. Because the fact of it is, I think we all remember living in 2020. Remember the fear, remember how quickly society fell apart, remember how vulnerable we felt. And in comparison to the threats that are literally ancient history that the proposition has given you today, pandemics feel very real to me. And I think we shouldn't be limiting them to less of a bigger threat just because the proposition thinks that, people are worse. Because another disease is terrifying, and another pandemic is a grim prospect. On the completely other side, August, you guys are an alien invasion. I'm sorry, I have no faith in world leaders to be able to promote peace among themselves, let alone another species. And you're telling me Simon Harris has to defend for my right to live, passes the cyanide, at least that'll be quick and I won't have to see him. Right, we're on to September. Now these are the big 4. These are the 4 most likely / biggest threats to humanity in my opinion. September, you guys die with the planet. Because if Elon Musk isn't the Messiah he says it is, which is really hard to believe, but entertain the thought, in a billion years from now, the planet will be inhospitable. 8 billion years from now, it's gone. And if we're still around, we're cooked. Like, literally. The sun's gonna expand and swallow the earth, and we're all gonna be pretty charred by the time that's over. October, you guys are artificial intelligence, and there was a big difference between a nuke and Skynet. One relies on the person who pulls the trigger, the other thing pulls the trigger itself. You'll be no more than the parents of generative AI before the proposition tells you that that's actually a people thing. No, it's not. It'll will likely mimic life to the point where it's indistinguishable from biological life. It is not our own feat, but it who must lay its accomplishments for better or for worse, which is why I feel comfortable saying when ChatGPT nukes us all, it's not Sam Altman who is the threat to humanity. The same way Frankenstein wasn't the one burning down the houses, it was the monster. November, you guys get Big Rock. Very exciting. And I want to call back though really quickly to when I said that the world that the proposition wants to believe in, where people are the biggest threat, is inherently worse than the world where we don't do that. And that's because beliefs lead to attention, leads to funding. More beliefs equals more funding. And money makes the world go round, baby. The fact is, threats, if we do not believe that non-human threats are as significant as human-level threats, we will not punish so much money to fight against them. And it's really cool when we do fight against them. Like in 2022, NASA sent a dart into space to prevent an asteroid hitting the planet. And is that not awesome? Like, is that not really, really cool that we sent a rocket into space to make a big rock fly away from us? And that sort of bullshit only happens in the world of the opposition, not the proposition. It's like space rockets, you've got to side with the opposition. And then finally, we are here at December, and I promised it would be a good one, because this whole thing has been to avenge all of the shitty Decembers that have been. And it is the death of the universe itself, or maybe the galaxy, but I have to get it to 12, so I'm putting them together. The big crunch, the big rip, and the big slurp are all very real and very terrifying ways the universe will end, and it will end. I'm an optimist. I like to believe mankind will walk among the stars on roads paved by allegedly Nazi billionaires. And for me, so to me, humanity is not some fickle thing like the proposition is likely to believe that hinges on a definition. The indomitable human spirit is a scrappy, violent thing. As long as we have been alive, we have fought, kicking and screaming and desperately clinging to the fleeting miracle of life. Time and time again, we have come to the brink, and only to drag ourselves back by our fingers, digging into the metaphorical dirt, a survival instinct, something as integral to us as life itself kicks in. See, I don't believe that people are the greatest threat to humanity. I think the way that we are is the only reason we still exist. The possibility of nuclear winter is terrifying, but it has existed for a good long while now. Somewhere, even the most deranged fucking nut job still has a tiny bit of their soul that wants to avoid total extinction, and I think that is beautiful in a mildly fucked up and scary way. I beg you to oppose.
I'd like to invite speaker for the right speech. I'd like to invite Amy to finish slide proposition. Here we go.
I don't actually know what to say in this debate, because I do believe my side, but beyond that, it is difficult to find things that we don't agree on. I could go down a slightly very parliamentary route of comparatives and statistics that I don't have, but I quickly peed into the political detachment I found in this case. I could also go down to the comedy route, but I'm actually quite open. So I return to what I know, to the things you already understand. 1. This year we hit the critical temperature of no return. Climate change is essentially unstoppable and the world is done. 2. There were tens of thousands killed by oppressive regimes last year, even more by starvation, climate disasters, and man-made deprivation. 3. At the end of one of those conflicts, the genocide of Gaza, people have condemned those surviving to life under occupation and lied to themselves, saying it is true peace when we all realistically know it is not. 3. 4. The global north and the systems of production on which we rely are inherently exploitative, exposing underpaid workers to harmful chemicals and textile production for our clothes, dangerous conditions in lithium mines for our devices, and natural disasters for our energy. 5. The United States, a global superpower and a country Ireland is so eager to be allied with, is falling to fascism, and a lot of the world is watching on in silence. The issue is that none of you will react. You've read it in the news, you've seen the blood and the tears on Instagram, you are desensitized and too overwhelmed to turn your hair into change, something you can't even be blamed for. So instead of listening, I'm going to be honest. Discussing climate change impresses me. It sounds obvious, but it is true. It is very difficult to stand up and talk about the end of everything as we know it and not feel some sense of despair. You can give up meat, and fast fashion and driving, but when you watch people's houses be destroyed by another fire or hurricane, it really doesn't feel like you are doing anything at all. If you look to your hands and the strings extend upwards, you truly feel like no more than a puppet, even if you feel like you are moving your own lips. I was scared of repeating everyone else's speeches in this debate, but the one distinction that is key to this, that keeps being brought up, is these two meanings of humanity, and they need more focus. There's the most obvious one, our species as a whole, the human race, but there's also that cultural concept of humanity that is speaking to something deeper. It's our inherent moral fiber that runs to our core, a mutual care and respect for personhood that makes us people. We are so desperate to differentiate ourselves from mere animals that we gave it our name. To be human is not just to be a member of the species, but to be a member of a community. The people enforced and created by a modern society are a threat to both of these. To elaborate on the first is easier, I think. This is climate. This is oligarchical government. This is rapid capitalism and overproduction. All of the apocalyptic stuff. I was in a class the other week about imagining the future, or a lack thereof, and this is an interesting phenomenon. In essence, we cannot imagine a world existing beyond our children's lifetime. The apocalypse will always happen in the next 60 years. Whenever people are writing about the apocalypse, it is always occurring within their lifetime, because we cannot physically imagine a world in which we do not see the end of it. We cannot imagine a world going on beyond us. This is why the rapture is always imminent. Even in imagining a world post-destruction, we still place ourselves at the center. The end of the human world is the great unknown. It's that thing over the horizon that we cannot fathom and seemingly cannot prevent. We can't understand and we will likely not be there to see the full impact of our actions. I'm not a scientist. I'm also not a politician or an oil tycoon or an environmental engineer. What I am is a literature student, and literature is fascinated all hell with the end of the world, and the cause of that end is almost always human. My mother's family feared a nuclear bomb when they were children, and so did my father. Both grew up in Ireland. Both grew up in County Wicklow. They grew up 10 minutes from each other, but the distance could have been hundreds of kilometres, and they still would have both received the same warnings and the same level of fear in school, because that was what the entire world was worrying about when they were existing in those years. If a nuclear bomb struck England, Ireland would be going too. Items of human invention go beyond any sort of comprehensible destruction that occurs in nature. We saw the monstrosity of an asteroid that falls from the stars and decided that we deserved to play God. The second form of humanity is, however, my main concern. The erosion of our connections with each other, our ignorance of the humanity of our fellow man, and the willingness of many people to commit atrocities for personal gain is a failing and a threat to the very core of who we are as a people. Humanity is interconnected. Even beyond globalization, we exist in communities of mutual reliance and mutual provision. The purposeful division of these networks by scapegoats and violent ethno-nationalism, by elitist resource hoarding, denies us our ability to engage with each other and mutually provide for each other. Whether it is an individual person who goes and presses that big red button in a nuclear bunker somewhere, whether that's the thing that instigates our annihilation, or whether a pandemic does indeed claim us all, the fall of humanity has begun far earlier. From the moment you were asked to turn over your time and participate in your own exploitation for basic necessities like food and shelter and water, we have already begun to fail. Without mutual trust and cooperation, we can't fight the illnesses that are coming to claim us. We can't fight the disasters or the violence that are coming, because we all realistically know they are coming. The cloud is on the horizon, and the question is whether you will grab the hand of the person beside you, whether you will look through their eyes and between the two of you gain some level of sight, or whether you will run in the other direction only to be swallowed whole. The people at the helm of this, those leaders and CEOs, will be the ones carrying you hand in hand, but they will also be flying away in a gleaming saucer into the distance, never to be seen again. The enemy are some of our own, but our fundamental nature is to appease them, and we cannot let that happen. It isn't fair to characterize these individuals as absent from this motion's definition of people. They are us, and we are them. We can't absolve them with the label of monster or under the veil of exploitative corporations. Those corporations were set up by men. They are run by men, and they are perpetuated by men. To deny that they are some of us is to risk falling into that trap ourselves. We are not the exception. Without a constant conscious effort to be better than them, we become complicit within the system that allowed them to rise to that level of power, that allowed them to deny our businesses, that allowed them to exploit us for our labor, for our time. We become, to use Sophia's metaphor, SpaceX instead of NASA sending the Dutch. I can't be depressed. I know the paralysis that it causes, so instead all I can try to do is radicalize you and tell you what you probably already know.
You could be willing to be complicit. You could not care. But you are here and you are thinking about it. Somewhere beneath desensitization and overwhelming stress is the truth. Just as people are the greatest threat to humanity, they're also our only. Thank you.
That's pretty good for everybody. My speech, I am invite Dr. Sheedy to close the slide opposition on today as well. Here.
Ladies and gentlemen, my fellow opposition and my worthy opposition, I stand before you to hold the motion that people are the greatest threat to humanity. And make no mistake, unlike some of my compatriots, I'm not here to defend people, but to tell you about what I think as an immunologist represents a greater and existential threat, one that we cannot see, control, or even predict. The microbial world and the diseases they wreak. This represents a force capable of wiping out whole populations, toppling economies, and importantly, exposing our dangerous ignorance. Just last week, the doomsday clock 50 seconds closer to midnight, after dancing a whole 7 minutes since 1945, which some may argue is solely due to human conflict and technological power. But by and large, and with some political will, we possess the capacity to solve these man-made problems. Our technological advancements, while impressive, however, have put us on a collision course with a much more powerful force, a force that led to our own creation and that will cause our own demise, biological evolution. And although we see ourselves at the pinnacle of evolution, we are vastly outnumbered by the diverse microbial world which survives and thrives in environments across the planet and within our own bodies, multiplying at a rate far greater than our own ability to adapt. And in the flip of a coin, we change human health or hinder human health. As noted already, pandemics have reshaped society throughout history. The Black Death in the Middle Ages annihilated millions. The Spanish flu of 1918 infected 1/3 of the world's population and killed more than 2 world wars combined. Recent evidence suggests that the only reason modern humans survived during viral infections is through breeding with Neanderthals. More recently, of course, we've witnessed the devastating impacts of HIV, AIDS, Ebola, and of course, COVID-19, a pandemic which illustrated how ill-prepared we are in the modern world to deal with microbial threats. From this, we learned how a novel virus could shut down entire economies, overwhelm healthcare systems, and claim millions of lives, despite modern medicine and technology. Yet, we remain dangerously complacent. The World Health Organization has named antimicrobial resistance a top global health challenge. Although initially developed as a magic bullet against infection or over-reliance on antibiotics, particularly in agriculture, has turned into more of a blunt instrument rather than a precise tool, and of course has altered much of our existing treatments. All of this makes it so much easier for microbes to adapt. If the overuse of antibiotics is like dropping an atomic bomb, from which resistant strains emerge as cockroaches, then the unchecked resistance that we are breathing is a looming nuclear winter. The rise in antibiotic resistance due to overuse and misuse of these life-saving drugs has turned once treatable infections, routine surgeries, and even innocuous cuts and nicks into potential death sentences. Drug-resistant tuberculosis, a disease I study, is rampant in regions with limited healthcare infrastructure. But make no mistake, these threats are not confined to faraway places. Resistant bacteria know no borders. If antibiotic resistance continues unchecked, we will return to an era where the incidence of childhood mortality jumps from about 4 in 1,000 to 1 in 20. Our failure to heed the lessons of past pandemics is astounding. COVID-19 illustrates how interconnected the world is, yet disinformation and vaccine hesitancy continue to thrive. weakening our collective immunity. We got out of COVID-19, our knowledge of the original SARS back in the early 90s allowed the effective and rapid mobilization of vaccines. But as noted earlier, luck is not a strategy. The next pandemic, termed disease X by the CDC, is an inevitability. With a novel infectious influenza, a deadly hemorrhagic fever, a virus as infectious as measles, but as lethal as Ebola, we don't know. But as a result of global warming, once isolated tropical diseases are extending their reach. Zoonotic spillover, where infections jump from resistant animals to ultra-susceptible humans, represents an ever-present threat. Humanity's reckless encroachment into wildlife habitats only increases the risk of the next pandemic. Our failure to prepare, coupled with our vulnerability revealed by our technological advances, will make disease X worse than anything we've seen before. Despite the best intentions of some groups to increase pandemic preparedness, and in part fueled by the experience of COVID-19, the isolation felt across the globe, we now find ourselves in a post-truth world where people argue about the nature of facts, especially those that they cannot see. And this, to me, points to a deeper problem about why we take the threat of microbial infection more seriously. By definition, we cannot see these microscopic bugs. Their presentation is less dramatic than alien mortars hovering over the White House, a rock hurtling towards the planet. No, they're presented as something much more mundane, a cough, feeling faint. But make no mistake, their impact will be equally, if not more terrifying. Field hospitals, mass graves, closed borders, and isolationism. The loss of thousands of children playing across the globe. More worrying is that ignorance facilitates the spread of infection. As evident by contact tracing during COVID-19, knowledge is power, yet society seems determined to remain in the dark. This will not just help the next Super Bowl, but will be something that their daily lives. Ladies and gentlemen, the end will come, not in fire, not in war, but in pestilence. Some may argue that you can create conditions for pandemics to spread. But this one underscores my point. The real enemy is the adaptable infectious agent that, in the race of survival, the battle of natural selection, survival of the fittest, exploits our vulnerabilities, our ignorance, as the clock gets closer to midnight.
Point of information, just for you.
Yes,
Take
let's
one.
go.
Yeah, how can you talk about post-truth and ignorance when you compare HIV to Ebola and SARS?
Oh my God.
COVID?
I've said at lectures with people arguing that HIV even exists.
I don't think
Because
that answers what I said.
Pardon?
I don't think that answers what I said.
How can I argue about post-truth?
When you compare HIV to Ebola and SARS.
Well, we live in an area where people dispute facts, or in an environment where people dispute facts. Yeah. I don't know. I can't answer that question. All of this today, I want to spend humans, but I do think we have the capacity to overcome these threats that I pointed out, and that is my defense of humans as well.
Before we go to the vote, a few announcements. We have a wine reception next door, so yeah, please stick around for that. Next you'll see on the wall, there's like QR codes in a few places. So if you scan that, you can do the archery returns, which we usually do on paper. So please fill that in. At the end of the year, the best archery prize. So please give everybody a review. And also the afters in the long break tonight. So please join us there after my session. So we'll now have a vote.